I'd like to call the Town of North Topsail Beach's Planning Board meeting on April 10th to order at 6 p.m. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda this evening?
Motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Agenda is adopted. Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes approved. All right, next, we have public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to speak this evening? We don't have anybody signed up or?
No.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. I see that, and it's nice. Next, we're going to move on to new business, and we are going to review the operating standards for existing travel trailer parks. And I am going to turn it over to Ms. Hill.
Thank you. If I was with it, I could have jumped in there prior, whenever you were talking about the adoption of the agenda, and said I would like to ask to table items, both A and B, under new business. And I was busy doing something else and not engaged. And then it was like, I missed that fly ball. It was just like a pop-up and I missed it. So I would like to table those two items for later. I'm still in the process of, I just got review comments back from the NFIP planner, and I'll be working with the town attorneys and with the town manager. And when I bring it to you, it's going to be fully baked, polished, all set, ready to go.
Okay, so I'd like to entertain a motion to table under new business, both A and B, which is the review of the operating standards for existing travel trailer parks and the proposed tax amendment to the UDO Article 7, non-conversion agreement requirement.
I'll
Do I-
make a motion to move the new business A, reviewing of operating standards for existing travel trailer parks, as well as B, proposed text amendment, UDO Article 7, non-conversion agreement requirement, as asked by Director Hill.
So you'd like to table that. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next, we have a discussion on community rating systems annual review, and there again, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Hill.
Thank you so much. I like to stand because I know I'm going to get really excited and start talking really fast, and this is like one of my favorite subjects to talk about. I'm not going to keep you very long, but this is kind of a prelude to some of the things that we're going to be working on. So the first thing is you should have in front of you from the North Carolina Department of Crime Control, Public Safety. I think it's just Public Safety now, but it's the effects of non-participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. I'll give you that copy. I'll give you my copy. So you know how the federal government is. You don't have to do this, but if you don't, this is what happens. So that's how NFIP is. The town does not have to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. They can say, nope, we don't want to do it. But in the event that they don't, then that's a list of the repercussions. And like no Fannie Mae, federally backed mortgages, federal funds in the event of emergency, So some of those items get to be very painful and very concerning in the event that either we broke up with NFIP or NFIP broke up with us. So, and one of the reasons why NFIP would break up with us is if we did not enforce the federal flood regulations that are codified in the Code of Federal Register, the CFR. Yeah. So we do participate in NFIP and very enthusiastically and excitedly. And so much so that the town takes it up a notch because, you know, we're all overachievers, and we also volunteer to participate in the community rating system. So I thought that since we have some new people, they might not be as familiar with the community rating system. And part of that's my fault, as I have discovered, that I need to be better about promoting the community rating system on the town's website along with the flood. I think it is a very important program. One of the benefits, and it goes to, you know, adopting higher standards and making sure that people and property are both safe in that order. But as an added bonus, there's a discount that goes along with that. So, not to brag, I'm bringing evidence. So, this is a list of the CRS eligible communities effective April 1st, 2025, hot off the presses, right? So if you go down, they're in order. So if you start at the top, New York is above us, but if you go straight down through, if you'll notice there, and catch me if I'm wrong, because I'll admit it, there are several other municipalities that have an ISO rating, of a 5, but there is only one local government that beats us. So you'll see a little happy face where it says North Topsail Beach, and I circled our 5. And then you'll see the one cruddy place that beats us, right? So that 25% discount, you know, can be kind of significant. One of the things that has happened is that flood insurance, because of the flood maps, and because of our program, and because of beach nourishment, we now have 75% of the town that is within the coastal AE zone, and only about 25% of the structures that are in a V zone. It used to be the opposite. So get my notes. Yep. There we go. So I don't have an updated one for 2025, but in 2023, in North Topsail Beach, there were 1,201 NFIP flood insurance policies, totaling $648,660 in annual premiums. So that's over $500,000 a year to the NFIP coffers from the property owners of North Topsail Beach. The average premium was $540. And I remember when the average premium was like $6,000, $9,000, $11,000. It was substantially higher than that. So for the average premium to be $540, the lowest one I think is like, I'm going to say $250 because it was either like $240 or $260, but it was $200 and something for their annual flood insurance premium. So the town's the town's CRS Class 5 rating saves the average policyholder $179 per year, or $214,702 townwide. So out of that $648,000 that's being spent, they're saving $214,000. All right, am I winning you over so far? All right. Beg your pardon?
Deb, does that,
I said as long as you're in federal flood.
Unfortunately, that is very true.
so the Cobra, this was not including the Cobra zone then?
This doesn't include private insurance, the private flood insurance policies that people have to have within Cobra. Unfortunately, we do not have any control over that. If we got rid of Cobra, and to me that's one of the biggest arguments. Like, it should be a bumper sticker, of why we should get rid of Cobra. In the town, I keep saying but the town has been such good stewards in adopting higher standards in floodplain management and volunteering to be in CRS and achieving an ISO score that is only beat by one other municipality in the whole entire state. I think good behavior deserves benefit. Right? Well, that's my sales pitch on that. So we just completed an audit. There was a contractual something between the company that's contracted with FEMA and CRS to administer the CRS audits. And so I actually turned in the report August 1st of last year, 2024. And then I got this email saying, you're due for your annual review. And I think that was like in early March. And evidently, I must have lost my mind. And I did not send them all the documents that I thought I had sent them. So that was kind of embarrassing. And I didn't even remember doing it. Like, I had everything done, and I remember thinking, this is way too easy. I got all this done in one day. And normally it takes me weeks and weeks and staying up late at night getting all this together. But it's like, I got it all done. This, what's up with this? Well, I get this email after I finally sent them the documents, the construction documents. And before you can even think about maintaining that 5, before you can do anything, you have to turn in all the elevation certificates and V-zone certificates for the past year. So in our case, it was 50. And and you have to have a 90%, like, when you were in school and I think 70 was pass, 73 was pass, something like that. We did not get an A. We did not get a B. We did not get a C. I'm embarrassed to tell you, we only got 2% out of those 50 correct. And it was like, I have really lost my mind now. Like, what in the world is going on here? So those elevation certificates, it wasn't one surveyor that messed up. It wasn't even 2. It was 7 different surveyors that I had to go back with and get them to correct their forms. And generally, they all made the same mistake. Generally speaking, there were some that were, outside of that, but there was one common mistake, and it had to do with how FEMA wants you to format the latitude and longitude. So they've standardized that, and I resubmitted it and took a deep breath, prayed, because I only have 2 shots to get this correct. First one, I got 2%. So here's my second shot. my ego would not handle failing this. I can tell you. I would be so embarrassed. I think I would just, it wouldn't be that I would quit formally. I don't think I could ever come out of my house again. It would just be too embarrassing. So on the second time, Lord have mercy, 100% correct. No errors. So, and that's not me. That's the patience and the responsiveness for all of the surveyors that corrected their elevation certificates and sent those back in. So I'm just the paperwork pusher. But all those guys, really, they were very cooperative and very expeditious in returning their documents. So we got that taken care of. And then on the other stuff that I thought I sent them, I was looking at my files, and I had sent them the wrong file, and I actually did complete the forms. And I was like, I remember doing this now. But that's what happens whenever you wait, 12 months or 9 months to ask somebody about something that should have been done 9 months ago. So I take responsibility for it, but hopefully they won't go through that lapse the next audit that they have. So that takes care of those two and that. So one of the things that I just found out about is that there's also get back on there. I guess I didn't get it. Let's see. FEMA has also established a national violation tracker in CRS discount exclusions. So if a structure is in violation, and I've gone through this, I think maybe 2 times before, and it's so severe that even just in the letter, like if I sent a letter to an individual that otherwise refused to come into compliance on whatever the flood violation is, like they would just tell me to pack sand. One of the things that I can do is take those notices of violation and then do a cover letter. Dear FEMA, Ms. Kate Winsler refuses to come into compliance. I've sent her these 5 notices, and I cannot obtain compliance. No matter what I do, if I'm nice to her, if I stand, I just cannot persuade her to come into compliance. Please revoke her federal flood insurance policy.
Deb, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can you also get the certificate of occupancy removed, or?
That goes into, and we'll discuss that. You probably could. You get the attorneys involved, they get their attorneys involved. Rather than to go that route, one of the tools that we've had, but I have been reluctant over the years just because I felt it was so arduous, is the item B that was on the agenda for tonight, the deed restriction. And so basically what that deed, and the county does it, I think Surf City, I don't think Surf City does it. Does Holly Ridge? Topsail Beach probably does it. I know the county does it. But in applying to construct, to start development in their permit, before they can get the permits, they have to record that deed restriction over at the courthouse and then provide a copy of that recorded deed restriction along with their application. And what that does is anytime that house goes up for sale, that document's included in the title work that says, hey, you cannot convert that ground floor enclosure to habitable space. And so it's in the deed restriction. It's also arduous on staff. The way that I read it is that I have to do an inspection on those houses every single year. And there's a number of other tasks that I'm already responsible for, and I just felt like that might be biting off more than I could chew. To me, it was always just something that I did not feel that either I could manage or wrap my arms around. But it has come to a point, it has come to the point in development, and you can, we don't have any secrets here. You can go on VRBO or any of the rental sites and pick out whatever 10-bedroom house that you want to rent for a week and go through their 30 very nice professional photographs, and I'm sure that you would be able to figure out which beds are on the ground floor and which beds are on the top floor. Generally, they're bunk beds. I guess everybody puts their kids in the basement, but there's kind of a style difference from most of the ones that I've seen. But it's in violation, and we have an obligation through our commitment and partnership with NFIP and FEMA to enforce those regulations. So one of the ways of doing it is requiring that deed restriction. So I'll be giving you more information, but your question goes directly to that.
Deb, could I ask you, would this still apply then to people in the Cobra zone, or since it's
That
not
deed-
in violation of,
That deed restriction would apply to property in the Cobra zone. And in the enforcement, in participating with NFIP, in order to, or in with CRS, we have to enforce these same flood regulations throughout the special flood hazard area, whether it's in Cobra or not. We can't say, hey, you folks in Cobra, you've suffered enough, you can do whatever you want to. It doesn't work that way. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because if the premise of why we're doing this is not because of the discount, but because we're trying to adopt higher standards for personal safety and property safety, then why would you not apply it townwide, right? So it's my way of showing that I love everybody. So any questions?
Well, I'm guessing that the, excuse me, the main difference is consequences. In Cobra, they're not going to they're not going to get a higher amount to pay in insurance because they're not going to lose their flood insurance, their federal flood. Whereas if you're in the federal flood zone, that could be taken away, and then all of a sudden you're in Cobra and you have to buy your own. Whereas the incentive is a little different, that's all. It's still a rule and it's still a law.
You're making my second argument of why
Okay.
Congress should remove Cobra from NTB. And
Well,
the reason being is for the places that I've had places that are in Cobra that are non-compliant.
Right.
And I'm just like, if they weren't in Cobra, all I'd have to do, I don't even have to actually put that letter to NFIP in the mail. Just attaching that letter to the letter to the owner saying you're in violation, I give up. I'm reporting this to NFIP. I'm recommending that they cancel your NFIP policy. Mm-hmm. You would be surprised at the number of people that have been very difficult to deal with that all of a sudden have a change of mind.
It's a lot of money.
Over one letter, they change their mind. Because it's not just them. When they sell that house, they cannot sell that house with an NFIP policy.
Right.
That goes to whoever buys that house. It's as if they have their own little Cobra zone. NFIP, not allowed. So that's a very persuasive tool, and it doesn't take very long to write that letter. It takes a long time to try to convince somebody whenever you don't have anything else, that they need to come into compliance. And then you need to get the attorneys involved. and then they file an appeal. You know, goes to the Board of Adjustment, whatever. So I like those letters so much. So, but the goal is, my intent is to work with the attorneys and to work with the town manager and to make the text stronger, more enforceable, and to do everything that we can to protect that CRS rating of a 5 and to continue those discounts. That's it.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
When you say work with the town manager and attorney to make it more enforceable or for people to comply,
Right.
are you thinking like along lines of fines for the Cobra people so that if they, because for the federal, you can recommend that they lose their flood insurance, so that really hurts. But for the,
Yeah.
to Susan's point, the Cobra people, there's no downside unless they go, I mean, really, there's none.
I could also issue a fine to the people that are in a FIP. It's just that extra thing that I have the authority as the floodplain administrator to write that letter to NFIP
Okay.
from Deb to NFIP.
So there's no I guess what I'm saying, I just want to make sure that there wouldn't be inequity between the two groups. So there's still the same level of standard.
The inequity is my inability to issue a Section 1316 letter to somebody that's in Cobra. That's the inequity, and that's not an inequity that the town created.
No.
That is an inequity created by Congress
Right.
by
Cobra.
not getting rid of Cobra to begin with. Argument number 3 for getting rid of Cobra.
We had a lot.
Right? I can, in order to treat everyone the same, we have to apply the same rules to everybody. So if you're in violation and you get a notice of violation, and we were talking about this earlier, that there's 2 things that I need, right? One, I need to be able to explain to you why, as a property owner, why you want to be in compliance, right? I need to persuade you. I need to sell you this program that I'm so passionate about, right? To where that you go, Deb, I didn't think about that. Let me fix that. Can you give me 10 days? Can you give me 15 days? Right? The other thing that I need is, in the event that you say, for the 3rd time, get out of my yard, pack sand, that the language of the ordinance is strong enough to where that I can work with the attorneys and enforce the regulations that we have. Because we go through this constantly. The biggest part of our job is trying to get people to come into compliance. Maybe 50% of the day. And if they don't want to do something, they're not going to do it. And then what do? You got to get the attorneys involved. And then your taxes go up, but we have some very wealthy attorneys all of a sudden. But we're very fortunate, and I'm glad that Chip is here. We are very fortunate. I am, as a planner, very fortunate to have attorneys that we can tackle some of these housekeeping items that, once and for all. Then we can say, okay, this is what I'm wasting my time on, or I'm spending more time on than I should. How can you help me fix this? Can we do a 1-2 punch? I'll be sweet and persuasive at first. And then we'll have a standard notice violation and, ironclad procedures on how we're going to deal with violations. Because at the end of the day, is it fair is it a good citizen, take the fairness out of it, is it a good citizen if an individual doesn't want to comply and we go through a FEMA audit and we're put on probation because we're not enforcing our ordinance and we lose NFIP? And I will tell you, as I like to think of that as being far-fetched, and I hope that you think that that is a little far-fetched almost, because we're so good and passionate about the flood program. But there was an entire county in Florida after Florence that was put on probation, costing them tens of millions of dollars. No sales in real estate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because FEMA found out that they were not enforcing their substantial damage, substantial improvement requirements. We do. Kate makes sure that I do. Right? And so when we get audited, they're going to say, "Do you enforce?" And I'm like, "Let me hit print. Let me show you." There's no reason not to, if you're going to participate, there's no reason why we don't do what we said that we were going to do. Right? We take the FEMA money for putting sand on the beach, right? So if we're going to take the federal money, we need to follow the rules. And we need to enforce the rules throughout the town, whether it's COBRA or non-COBRA. Whether it's on the ocean front, whether it's a $2 million house, or whether it is a $30,000 mobile home, doesn't matter. Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you. Is there,
Can we ask?
sure.
Chip, I just wanted to ask you if you had anything to add to that.
No, my 5 children appreciate the wealthy lawyer comment. Wait for the payday to come in. No, I thought that was very appropriate. I think it's very important, and I think you touched on everything that needed to be touched on. So that was a nice job.
Yeah. Just a point of clarification, that you would be a wealthy attorney if we did not do this properly, because you would be representing us gladly representing us in court, even though we didn't have a leg to stand on.
Gladly.
All right.
Gladly.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any more discussion on anything anybody would like to bring up? Okay, there being no other discussion, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned at 6:33.